Henry Cavill might be headed to the MCU after all, but according to new reports, it won't be as Wolverine. Hello, I'm Marvin, and I'm the Movie Monster. Henry Cavill is one of my favorite people in Hollywood. He's a genuinely good dude who is a major superfan of these geek properties that he keeps landing roles in. Unfortunately, he constantly gets the shaft due to Hollywood's incompetence and his willingness to stick up for fans. Henry's run as Superman could have been iconic. He had the makings of a fantastic Superman. He looked the part, sounded the part, and most importantly, knew the part. Cavill was the Superman we all deserved, but unfortunately, he was trapped in the cynical, nonsensical, insulting, and just downright stupid-ass Snyderverse. Zack Snyder is a talentless, bumbling edgelord hack who for some reason had the auteur myth surrounding him until he was allowed to keep making things and everyone saw how bad he truly is. He created a colorless, bland DC universe and made everyone a smirking, soulless killing machine. I know that a lot of people, myself included, hate the Joss Whedon version of Justice League. It's a mess, a Frankenstein's monster of a film, and that's the fault of Warner Brothers for realizing far too late that this was a complete and utter debacle. And before you come at me with talk of Snyder leaving for family reasons, I'm aware of it, and he has my sympathies. What I'm saying here is that if the studio actually believed in his vision, if they actually thought his ideas were good, then they wouldn't have changed it once he left.
I am assuming direct control.
And by the way, Zack Snyder's Justice League was even worse. It was a 4-hour slog through edgelord nonsense, culminating in the League gang murdering the villain. I'm convinced that the movie would have only been an hour and a half if they cut out all his hacky, moronic, slow-motion scenes. But my undying hatred of Zack Snyder is not the subject of today's video. It'll be the subject of many other videos, but not the one today. The reason I bring up Justice League is because, horrific facial CGI aside, Joss gave Henry's Superman some lighter moments. He talks to kids, he smiles, he jokes. He had that twinkle in the eye that Superman needs to have, the one that was so perfectly encapsulated by Christopher Reeves and duplicated exquisitely by Dean Cain. There was a fantastic Superman buried somewhere beneath all that murdering. Then you had Henry play Geralt in The Witcher, another property he was hugely passionate about. The first season was good enough, but soon it became obvious that Geralt was being shown the back seat in his own show in favor of his stunning and brave female co-stars.
Fools! Idiots! Imbeciles!
It turns out that the creative team on the project actually hated the source material and would even mock it in meetings. Guys, it never works when you have a Hollywood phony writing an IP that they don't like. This is what happened here, and it's what happened with Velma too.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
And because of this, Henry Cavill walked away from The Witcher. DC then brought him back as Superman right before subsequently firing him once James Gunn took over and wanted to go in a different direction. The poor guy is being jerked around by the whole industry. But he appeared in Deadpool and Wolverine to great fanfare, making a cameo appearance as the Cavalrine, a variant of Wolverine. New reports say that he's been having talks with Marvel of late, and a lot of people believe that the Cavalrine could be coming back.
All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind.
But our good friend industry scooper WDWPro has heard differently, and I've heard a few things from my own sources inside Marvel as well, and we're going to talk about what Henry might actually be doing today on Tooneytown TV.
All right, so I'm going to bring up an article here, guys, about Henry Cavill, and it is going to include a report, and then I'm going to give you a scoop that our friend WDWPro did on his channel, and then I will give you a little bit more information that I got from one of my sources within Marvel. So this is going to be kind of a multiple layered thing here.
This is exciting.
Yeah. So the report that we saw is Henry Cavill had talks with Marvel in August confirmed. This is by Matt McGloin over at Cosmic Book News. Once again, my Comic-Con insiders are proven correct, as now it is said Henry Cavill had talks with Marvel, with it said he or his people talked with Marvel in August. Well, back in August, I told you guys, okay, we get it, you were right. Also, recall how many Comic-Con insiders told me about Daredevil Born Again getting retooled, which was exactly what the trades reported months later. You know, my sources said that too. You're not that special, man. No, I'm kidding. They were definitely good scoops. What I was told about Henry Cavill and Marvel. Regarding what I was told about Henry Cavill and Marvel, I was told Cavill could be up to play Wolverine full-time in the MCU. Worth mentioning is that Henry Cavill is the only actor to have played Wolverine outside Hugh Jackman.
I know that.
Actually,
I guess I never
the more
thought
think
about it.
that's real. Yeah, I never thought about that either. Worth mentioning, the cameo in Deadpool and Wolverine was also received really well by fans. I was also told Cavill wants a lot of money to play Wolverine, well, of course, but Marvel did fork out the cash for the Russos and Robert Downey Jr., so why not for Henry Cavill? Rumors have offered Hugh Jackman could stick around the MCU as Wolverine, and that even a sequel to Deadpool and Wolverine might be in development. So whether or not Henry Cavill plays Wolverine after Secret Wars or a different character, I don't know. Well, our friend WDWPro on a recent episode of the Pro Show revealed that his sources have stated that Henry Cavill is indeed in talks with Marvel, but it is not to play Wolverine. It is to play Cyclops.
Perfect.
Which would be the most perfect casting of all time. Henry Cavill as Cyclops, he's too big to be Wolverine. He's a Superman-sized man. Therefore, he is too big to be Wolverine. However, he's the perfect size to be Cyclops, especially 90s Cyclops. Remember how he was built? 90s Cyclops was a big dude. Am I right there, Martin?
Oh, absolutely. 90s Cyclops generally is my favorite X-Men.
Mine too.
Messed him up the last few years.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Isn't this who Bo DeMeo dressed up as in that drawing?
Yes, we don't need to talk about that, Trish. Trish, we're flying high right now. You don't need to bring us down into the muck to talk about Bo DeMeo and his.
That's a great
I
idea.
don't know.
In his softcore pornographic,
Bo DeMeo's
fan
a
art.
treasure.
Fan art that he, quote unquote, fan art that he probably had commissioned. To me, my X-Men. But yes, Henry Cavill as Cyclops would be amazing. Now, I talked to my source within Marvel, and I said, "Hey, have you heard anything about Henry Cavill being in talks to play Cyclops?" And my source said to me, "Yes, that is 100% on the table. However, it is not the only thing on the table. They are discussing multiple possible opportunities with Henry Cavill and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Another one being kicked around is Captain Britain, which, I mean, obviously,
fantastic for that.
We have been talking about him as Captain Britain for a very long time. That is a thing that has been kicking around for quite some time. And I think it would be amazing. I just don't think Captain Britain is a big enough character for him. I don't know. I would rather see him as one of the X-Men. Now, the other one that he said, which is, I have not heard this anywhere else, so this might be kind of an exclusive here. He said that there is mock-up artwork done that was shown to Henry Cavill of Henry Cavill as Mr. Sinister.
I could see that.
I could too.
I was waiting for Martin because I just felt like Martin had a reaction to that.
I like it. I don't like it as much as Cyclops, but
not me neither. I like Cyclops a lot more, but make his skin eggshell white, make his lips black, put the little jewel in the middle of his head, and my goodness, he would be the perfect Mr. Sinister. I don't know how I feel. I've never seen him play a bad guy other than Mission Impossible. He was a bad guy, right? I didn't see that movie, but
I love
he also would have
Mission Impossible movie I've seen. I love that movie.
He also would have made a good Adam Warlock.
Yeah, he would have been.
If they had done Adam Warlock right.
So I'm going to tell you, this segment is going to be in one of my videos for next week. So I'll have a full video on this, including this segment from the show. And you're going to see in the thumbnail, I put the Cyclops visor on Henry Cavill in the thumbnail, and it looks fantastic.
Nice.
It's very strange how he's weirdly appropriate for a lot of these kind of, I don't want to use the word iconic because people overuse it, but iconic characters. Think about all of the characters that he plays and he's good at and looks right for. And it's a weird little grouping. He was Sherlock Holmes. I liked him in the Enola Holmes movies.
Mm-hmm.
He was Geralt. He was Superman. They're talking I'm thinking he fits. Isn't he in Highlander too? He's in all these things.
Whether it's Duncan or whether it's Connor, he is going to be whatever McLeod is going to be featured.
Interesting. And then he's always thrown around for James Bond, which I will be disappointed if it's anyone but him for James Bond.
He's a perfect James Bond. It won't be him because
if you've seen The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which is a good movie, he's perfect for James Bond.
Making
I just don't know how many people saw it.
making good casting already sets you about halfway there. I think part of the reason why he fits so well with a lot of the comic book characters is because dudes in comics are usually built with, like they're rocking the arms, they're super muscular. The women are looking like they're, old school Victoria's Secret models, not current. And like, I think a lot of people can tolerate even a movie that's not very good if the character was casted right and they're not at least portraying the character. If you can at least kind of shut your brain off and watch someone like how they were portrayed in the comics, I think you've got gold there. And I think Hollywood could learn a lot. And I think casting Cavill as Cyclops, who used to be my favorite X-Men as a kid, I think that could do a lot of favors for a lot of people.
It's gold, Jerry.
Actually, this seems like a good group of people to ask. This is not my forte, but
Okay.
Back with the X-Men movies that I have not seen. Taylor Kitsch was Gambit, if I have my facts correct.
Yes, in the Wolverine, right?
Or
Wolverine.
I don't know which one.
Origins.
Just one of them. I just know it was one of them. But I love Friday Night Lights, the show, so I love Taylor Kitsch, and I'm kind of surprised that his career is a little intriguing to me. But what I remember hearing about him specifically was he was like decent. It's just that the movie was bad.
He had 2 minutes of screen time.
Yeah, like it was one of those things where people were like, we could have gotten into it, but everything just the way it worked out.
John Carter killed his career, and that's unfortunate because I think that was actually a good movie. I would have liked to have seen it continue.
I hear people say that, so I'm like, I don't understand. It failed, but then I hear people who have like actually seen it. They say they like it, so I'm so confused as to how that was such a career problem.
I feel like it was just somehow the wrong time. I think it came out, and some people started bad mouthing it, and then everybody dogpiled. I don't feel like it was a bit. I don't feel like it was a bad movie.
Yeah, it was good. I don't think it really was a good encapsulation of the Barsoom books or even the first one, but it was a good movie.
I do wonder if some of it is just people being illiterate about the character, because if you don't know who the character is or where he came from, you might think this is a bad knockoff of Superman. There's so many tropes that actually robbed from John Carter that came into later entertainment that people don't realize that that's actually the origin for a lot of this stuff. So they may have felt like it was a knockoff without realizing that actually all the other things you know and like are a knockoff of it.
So to steer it back to Henry Cavill and Cyclops, I just pulled up a bunch of fan art of him as Cyclops. Safe for work, don't worry. I have my filters on.
Well, you didn't say it was Beau DeMayo, so
yes, it's not Beau DeMayo. So guys, look at how good that is. Like, look how perfect he looks as Cyclops.
I can hear the theme song in my head.
Yeah. Like it would be the perfect casting. It really would.
I'm very cynical about anything Henry Cavill now. He's been burned so many times.
Here's the thing: he's been burned so many times, but that's because he's not going to take it. So when he
he ain't going to take it.
That's why he ain't going to take it anymore. I know that when he is in a comic book like property and it makes it to the theater post Snyderverse, because that was crap and it was his big break, and I understand why he did it. But now, when he's in something that makes it to theaters, it's a comic book property, I know that it's good. I know that it's going to be not even good, but just respectful of the source material, because we've seen him walk away. We saw him walk away from The Witcher. Did he walk away from Warhammer, or was that just like him threatening to walk away from Warhammer?
I think he's still involved in it, right?
Last I heard, he was still involved.
Yeah.
Feels to me like a dead project, though. I think that it's in development hell because there's been all the controversy around what Games Workshop is doing, and I suspect that I don't think they want to make a big announcement, but I think they're just going to let it quietly die.
I don't know that it will
video
quietly
game
die.
hitting big.
Yeah, Space Marine 2 really churned the water, because it's like everybody can point to it and say, that's what you do.
Now, Lorn, I would say that Henry Cavill has proven that he's able to take the Boy Scout, for lack of a better term, type heroes and make them, you're able to kind of connect with them, and he's able to kind of portray a toughness while also at the same time being, wholesome. What would you say about that?
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't disagree. I, I have a hard time getting past his Superman though, and that's not his fault. You know
Yes.
that was not his fault. But I'll never agree with Snyder's vision of Clark ever,
Oh, of course not, ever.
or Pa Kent. It's like they got that so fundamentally wrong that it's difficult for me to get past. What I like about Cavill, and to be fair, I haven't watched a lot of his stuff, to be honest. But when he's in interviews and when he's talking about the things he's passionate about, he is one of us. He's a guy
Yeah.
that loves this stuff. And he's one of the rare people. When you see people go and do the PR circuit and they're talking about how they love this character and they love this role and they're just so excited to play them, and you know they've never touched anything related to this character until they got the job. That's not Henry. This is a guy who plays with his toys and gets on his computer and plays games anonymously and geeks out about it when on talk shows, to the point that the other people on the panel start teasing him about it. I love that about the guy. And that's what tells me it's like, when they do that, when I've seen him geek out about Warhammer 40K, and some folks on the panel were actually mocking him about how into it he was, and he's still passionately talking about it. It's like
He doesn't care.
This is a guy.
He loves it.
Yeah, and that's what you want. You want somebody who's going to care about being authentic to what it really is, and that's where Hollywood has gone so wrong, and why his willingness to walk away is so right.
I saw an infuriating thing recently where I don't know if it was an old thing that was just popping back up or if it was said again, but the lady who was the showrunner for The Witcher talking about how she was so annoyed by Henry Cavill because he was so passionate and so insistent about the source material. I'm like, yeah, he cares. He's a fan. He's part of the fan base, the core audience that you should be trying to appeal to.
You should be so grateful that your lead actor is that enthusiastic and that passionate about what he's there to do. And it's like, not only are they not grateful, they hate it. And I don't get it, because it's like what Lorn just said about interviews. It's so likable in interviews that it's like the opposite of like what we were just talking about with Wicked. He's the opposite of that.
Yeah.
He's never ever going to say anything.
Because for him, it's not actually about him the way it is for Cynthia Erivo. For him, it's actually about Geralt. It's actually about Clark. It's actually about the characters that he's playing, because he has a genuine love for them. Kevin told me a story one time. He knows somebody who was one of the trainers. I think he either knows the guy or he knows a guy who knows the guy who was one of the trainers for Henry Cavill.
I know the story.
Superman. You know the story. And so he said Cavill was squatting, and he was squatting like a really heavy weight, and he got stuck. And so the trainer was about to come help him, and all of a sudden he just hears, "I'm Superman. I'm Superman. I'm Superman," and he just exploded up. And I was like, okay, this guy's allowed to be Superman.
Love it.
Oh my
Hollywood's
God.
got a long history of taking the guy who really knows the stuff and pushing them aside.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
The James Bond series, probably the most book accurate James Bond, the guy who was most interested in getting it right was Timothy Dalton. Now, it's not exactly that EM Productions pushed him to the side. He actually stepped away because he thought he was too old for it by the time the rights issues were cleared up for GoldenEye. But there's never been a more book accurate James Bond than Timothy Dalton.
Yeah.
People are so hard on him.
The thing is they're like, your passion is getting in the way of my vision. And that's where I get so mad. I'm like F your vision. F your you're making this for the fans. It's for the fans. It's not for you. It's for the fans. You're not making it for yourself. You're making something for an audience to consume. And that is what drives me crazy. This mentality in Hollywood that you're here to experience my vision by the grace of me. No, you are here to make something that we want to see, that we want to spend money on. How dare you? That's what I say to that.
I think there's two things that contribute to this, and one is, like you said, it's pure ego. When you have writers and showrunners who want to put their mark on a property. That's the goal for them. They want their name associated with the property, and they have the ego to think that they can do it better than what's gone before. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is kind of explaining that reaction to why people are irritated with somebody like a Henry Cavill, for instance. Is that one of the things I learned when I started appearing on various YouTube channels and talking about Star Wars and things is that there's a weird thing in geek communities where everybody wants to be the king of the nerds. And as soon as you misstate a fact, or as soon as you have an opinion that's contrary to somebody, there's going to be people in the comments that are going to say, well, what about this issue in this book on page 43, paragraph 2, word number 5? And it's like,
it was
guys,
6, Lorn.
It's not competition. It's really not. It's like sometimes you forget something when you're talking extemporaneously. It's not like you have perfect recall. And there's always going to be somebody that knows some little fact or thing that you don't. You can't possibly experience it at all. But there is a segment of people that sees it as a competition. And so I think there's some of that that probably happens on these sets as well. When these guys do have the job of being a showrunner or a writer or something like that, and then an actor comes in and says, no, you're doing it all wrong. That probably does feel threatening. I'm not excusing it, but I suspect that's where some of that tension comes from.
Yep, absolutely. Guys, joining the panel right now, fresh, I'm assuming, off of Trick or Treating, the one, the only, Mr. Kevin Apollo.
Hello, everybody.
Kev, weigh in real fast on this as we end this topic. So the rumors were that Henry Cavill is in talks with Marvel. He has met with Marvel already. The rumors were to play Wolverine, but Pro has a source that said Cyclops.
Cyclops? I saw
yes.
That
now
an excellent Cyclops. However,
before you get too deep into it, I will say my source corroborated the Cyclops, but also said that 2 others are on the table. Captain Britain is on the table still, and Mr. Sinister is on the table.
Stop with the
Cyclops.
Brian is not nearly popular enough to be wasting Henry Cavill on, unless we're going to do some cool. He's back to being Peter Parker's college roommate, and they go on adventures together, and that's like a deep cut that no one even cares about. The let's see, you know what? Other than my having a soft spot for John Travolta being Mr. Sinister because of Battlefield Earth.
He would be a good Mr. Sinister, I think.
I'm happy with all 3. I would like to see it be Wolverine because it means we'll get a lot more of him. But if Cyclops is going to be treated with some respect, I've got some worries about that with Marvel.
So Henry Cavill, my favorite modern Hollywood actor, might be playing Cyclops, my favorite X-Man. Man, I truly hope Pro's source is right on this, and there's plenty of reason to believe he is. Pro's sources on scoops have given him an accuracy rating of well over 90%, which is better than just about every other scooper in the industry. I've always said that if you want to know what's really going on in Hollywood, Pro and That Park Place are where you need to be. And as we've said, I've also conferred with my source within Marvel, and they told me that Cavill is up for Cyclops, though Captain Britain and Mr. Sinister are still distinct possibilities. I desperately want to believe that this is real, because Cavill and Jackman as Cyclops and Wolverine would be a huge asset to the struggling Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Olsen, help me up onto his casket so I can dance on it!
Cavill's a guy with some real geek street cred, a guy who pours love and admiration into these geek-centric roles. He's a solid actor who does the work and looks the part. Simply put, if you're adapting a geeky property, Henry Cavill is who you want attached. He's starring in the Highlander reboot as well, which is exciting for me as a massive Highlander fan. I was afraid of them rebooting this classic until I found out that Cavill was set to play whichever McLeod this movie is going to follow. I know that if he signs on, the script is good and they're going to be responsible to the source material. Simply put, Henry Cavill is a sign of excellence, and any movie with him in it is going to have me in the audience. When he was asked about the so-called toxic fandom in Hollywood, he said this.
I'm curious if that's comparable to this sort of world, this culture of toxic fandom, where like if you make a movie, especially if you make a superhero movie, like you have great intentions, but there are always going to be a small yet vocal group of people there can kind of just be toxic.
I understand what you're saying, but when it comes to fans, it is a fan's right to have whatever opinion they want to have. And people are going to be upset because, especially when you're talking about books or games, because you're never going to be the exact person who they had in their head or who they played on Witcher 3, for example. I don't necessarily consider that toxic. I just consider that passionate.
He stuck up for fans even as the Axis media tried to bait him into attacking us because he's one of us. He shares our passions and our frustrations. And if he's the guy who's going to be leading the next generation of X-Men, well, then I hope you'll all join me in being there to cheer him on. Thanks for watching the video today, and a special thanks to our Tooneytown TV channel members. You guys get every single video that we do, including this one, early, as well as exclusive content like our true crime podcast, Crime and Punishment with Marv and Trish, along with Kevin Apollo's Rants, Marv's Theme Park Rundown, and more. So if you're not a member of the Tooneytown TV channel, join today. And I hope you'll all join us for Tooney Talk TV, our live stream pop culture podcast every Thursday night at 8 p.m. EST. It's your opportunity to interact with me directly and make your voice heard as a part of the Tooneytown community. If you liked what you saw here today, please like, share, and subscribe. Click that bell icon to get notified of new videos as they drop. From all of us here at the Tooneytown channels, I'm Marvin the Movie Monster. Now get out of here!